teaser of my OnlyFans. Hi, it's Kendall here, and if you're new around here, welcome. If you're not new around here, what is up, home skillet biscuit? Please ignore my tongue. I ate like 3 Jolly Ranchers, and I don't regret it. They were delicious, but they stay with you. And happy Saturday. If you don't know what Saturday is when I do a little something called Bad Movies in a Beat, the series on my channel where I talk about bad movies while I put my makeup on. Not gonna lie to you guys, I'm feeling a little delirious. Spent all night playing Uno. I downloaded an Uno app. That's where I'm at in quarantine. Last week we watched, what did we watch last week? Oh, Dangerous Lies. Yeah, Dangerous. What a forgettable movie. Oh my god. Another Netflix original suspense film that is neither original or suspenseful. If you haven't seen that video and would like to check it out, you can check it out up above, or you can check it out in the Bad Movies in a Beat playlist. I really need that second cup of coffee, but it's 5 o'clock. No, think about your sleep schedule. This week, we're in for a treat. Have you ever seen a movie so bad you feel like it's unjust that no one else you know has felt the same pain that you felt? Honestly, to some extent, that's why I make this series. But the thing is, when I make these videos, I kind of make them so that you don't have to watch the movie to have a good time. It probably makes it even funnier if you have seen the movie because you can recall events, but generally my goal is to help you through the movie so that you don't actually have to waste your time on it. Today, we're talking about John Henry. There is no vocabulary robust enough to really explain to you in its entirety the experience that was watching John Henry. John Henry is a 2020 film that recently got uploaded to Netflix. I think it actually came out originally in January, but I feel like most people are hearing about it right now. Now, this film is supposed to be, I guess, in some ways inspired by a character in Black American folklore by the name of John Henry. It's basically about a Black man who did a race against a steel drill machine and actually ended up winning with his bare strength, only for him to die from exhaustion by the end of it. In the folklore, he did his job with a hammer, hence some of the images, I guess, you will see in this movie. That is literally where it ends. This being called John Henry, and that the guy at some point is going to be strong and holding a hammer in hand, that's essentially the only parallels between this movie and the original folklore, which makes it completely offensive in my opinion. I mean, he has a hammer, but he uses it a little differently. I've never seen a film so confused about what it wanted to be. It didn't know if it wanted to be like a West Coast gang story, superhero, supervillain movie, or a Western, or a comedy, or a romance, or a musical for that matter. I'll get to that. You can't do all the genres at once if you're gonna do them all poorly. The first 30 minutes literally feels like they didn't know how to start the movie. And so they started it several times. There's like 3 or 4 intros to the movie. There's 3 or 4 situations that this could have been the beginning of the movie, but they decided to keep all of them. Like, I've never seen a movie go through such an explicit identity crisis. And also the thought of that at some point, this was in theaters, limited theaters, but like it has A-list celebrities. Write that screenplay, girl. You in quarantine, you got the time. Make that dream come true, girl. But like I said, I've never seen a movie have this much of an identity crisis, and that's why I'm gonna need y'all to watch it. After you're done with this video, because Terry Crews already made his money, I'm trying to make mine. After this video, watch the movie and tweet me or comment in the comment section here or at me on Instagram. I want to hear your opinions because that's been the best part. Usually I'm going to watch these movies more than once anyway, but usually I give myself a day or 2 to recuperate. No, I went in again immediately and did it via Netflix party. How do we know you're about to do a Netflix party? How do I get notified about that? You follow me on Twitter. I feel like I'm plugging my Twitter a lot today, but it's not on purpose. It's just, that's the truth. I don't plan them out. I don't schedule them. They just kind of happen. We got the Twitter fam ready, and I said, we about to watch this friggin' John Henry. I had the pleasure of screenshotting some of the reactions. A pure insult, an emotional and verbal assault to my being. Feels like I watched so much, yet nothing all at the same time. It had 3 intros, a song in literally every scene, and a father whose last words will haunt me forever. I have never in my life been so over a movie. So, without further ado, let's discuss John Henry. The movie begins with a young John Henry and his father chatting it up in a Cadillac in an old home movie. And I gotta say, this scene really does set the tone for just the glaring, overwhelming sexism of this movie.
I'm gonna be drowning in so much pussy driving this beast. I'm gonna have to build me an ark.
It's so jarring in 2020 to see movies like this that not only have like overtly sexist people in it, but overtly sexist people that ultimately don't get reprimanded for being overtly sexist. It's just like a lot of calling women bitches and objectification. Because at some point, it's added so gratuitously that you're like, is this supposed to be funny? Because it's not.
That you lucky you my pops. Otherwise, you would have caught these hands. You already.
Question. I may be wrong, so feel free to correct me if I am, but catch these hands. Were people saying catch these hands in the early 90s? I thought that was more of a recent colloquialism, but correct me if I'm wrong. Almost positive no one in the early 90s said catch these hands. But hey, the only point somewhat of this scene is to say why his father decided to name him John Henry.
And your brand new little hand squeezed my finger so hard, I thought it was gonna snap off. My boy's strong. What you gonna do with all that strength, John?
For all intents and purposes, if we decided to end here, this would be a sufficient enough intro to the movie. It's like, this is the beginning scene, we get a little background. If we just move to the title screen, that would make sense. But this movie doesn't. It continues to play more like old footage that doesn't matter. It's just completely unnecessary footage of some miscellaneous Negroes talking about guns and playing cards. We get the first of so many extremely jarring and loud musical interludes.
John Henry!
And if we want to, we could say this begins intro 2. Very loud, Negro spiritual in relation to the original folktale of John Henry. And of course, we're introduced to our John Henry of this film, Terry Crews. Terry Crews, A-list celebrity, well-decorated actor. He's been in TV shows, he's been in movies, he's been on daytime television hosting things. Doesn't he host America's Got Talent now or something? He's such a household name. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Friday, and he's John Henry. While I was looking into this, apparently the part was originally going to be played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Luckily turned it down because he realized he don't need this garbage. But in fairness, neither of them are in want of a check. So I really don't know why Terry Crews took this. Maybe he's a friend of somebody's. I don't know. But in this intro to the movie, John's dog is run over by Travis Scott. I don't know what his actual name is. Yo dead dog resulted in a dent in my car. I'ma pull a gun out on you because that would solve that problem. Because apparently this movie is made in an alternate universe where it is also trapped in the closet and a gun is pulled out for no reason.
And I pull out my gun? Oh, Jesus, here we go with the gun again.
John silently lifts his dog up and just carries it away like Meg in Hercules. Just silent, stoic, and mournful as more incredibly loud music plays. And then we finally get the title screen and you're like, okay, so that's the intro, right? That should be we're gonna actually get into the main movie now, right? No, because there's also a 3-minute animated intro to the movie. This intro is part of that kind of like weird superhero tone that sometimes is in the movie. For all intents and purposes, it's a theme song. The intro's like so ridiculously long. It's like a hot ass 3 minutes, 3.5, 4 minutes. Which, by the way, the music throughout the movie is not bad. It's just so misplaced and so freaking loud. Like there's even parts where you can't really even hear the words being said because the music is so freaking loud. But the music kind of ends up being like a focal point in a very awkward and unnecessary way. But yeah, when you put that much focus on the music, it makes you think they're gonna break out in song and they never do. Anyway, with the last animated intro, I think basically we're done with all the intros. We see this group of West Coast gangster stereotypes. This scene, among a lot of scenes in this movie, are just completely pointless, is unnecessarily long, painstakingly sexist, sad attempt at comedy. 80% of this scene could have been thrown away. Just not funny and also not informative. Like a big part of it was just a guy arguing with his girlfriend and how he shops at Pottery Barn. This dude being rapey and one of the trafficked women having dirty feet. So when like 5 minutes into this part of the movie, someone finally got shot. Thank God. Boy, y'all stretching out this movie longer than YouTubers be stretching to that 10-minute point. This movie is mad high cholesterol. Trim the fat. Yeah, one dude gets shot. Young Ma over here. She like, you good? This nigga got a bullet wound. She's like, you good? By the way, I can't take credit for the Young Ma joke. Let me say that. That was somebody in the Netflix party. Thank you for that. Because that's going to be her name the entire movie. Because I don't think I ever found out what it actually is. But yeah, the house gets lit up. This one dude is like really chill about it. In walks two Spanish-speaking men. This is the beginning of one of the biggest just like technical issues with this movie. Oh my God. This movie is so lazy. At no point do they actually translate any of the Spanish speaking. There's so much. And there's a lot that can't even be garnered through context. If you watch this movie with subtitles on while they're speaking Spanish, it says speaking Spanish. The ghetto. But apparently these two Spanish speaking men are one of the girls that were being trafficked brothers. One of the brothers gets shot and the other brother swiftly takes the sister away and they run away. They get held up by a cop. Despite running so slow and also running down a linear alleyway and, let's be honest, being brown, she does not get shot or apprehended. She escapes by running and hiding under a random house's stairs. Of course, John Henry's home. John Henry, for some reason, invites this stranger into his home, feeds her a struggle sandwich, and then commences to try to introduce himself like Tarzan.
My name is John Henry.
To a girl that he didn't know doesn't speak English. I don't know why he assumed she didn't speak English, but okay. Speaking of John Henry introducing himself, I would like to note that for some reason, everyone in this film, including John himself, refers to himself by his entire name, John Henry.
John Henry.
That you, John Henry?
John mother Henry.
I'm John Henry.
John Henry is not his like first and middle name. You know, like some people have like two names, Mary Ann, Billy Bob. His entire name is John and Henry. We soon see John's father again, who is now wheelchair ridden. His name is BJ and he's still an asshole. Basically every man in this movie except for John is a raging misogynist. Again, ways that I'm not even used to anymore. People aren't this overtly misogynist outside of Twitter. Because he calls her a gutter bitch. Her name is Berta. Asshole. John offers to allow Berta stay after some staggering stunted attempts at conversation. Lo and behold, BJ the dad actually speaks some Spanish because he was banging a Spanish chick in the 90s. Ooh, masculinity. John asks what happened to her parents and she says she doesn't have any parents. All she has are hermanos. They didn't subtitle any of the actual Spanish, but what they did subtitle was the word brothers, but in Spanish. Soon thereafter, it is still the year 2020 and we see a man buy pads for a young woman and it's supposed to be some like big deal. And this is where he runs into an old friend who I don't know her name, so I'm gonna call her Mammy Black Woman because that's all she performs as anyway. She's just like the chubby dark-skinned black woman supportive type. Basically she works there. They have this weird Tyler Perry-esque romantic, maybe, I guess that's what that's supposed to be. They start dancing to oldies while he's holding pads for dear life. The tone swiftly switches to ominous. That was hard to say. Swiftly switches as we see gangsters canoodling out in the darkness, interlaced with some more 90s gangsta home videos, aka evidence. I was gonna say, why would you do that? But hey, R. Kelly. There's so many scenes in this movie that just straight up could have not been there. John has a nightmare and wakes up to talk to Berta and it's like she doesn't speak English. Apparently she draws in Spanish. And then there's another scene where the dad is arguing with her about whether or not there's such thing as white bats. At some point you would think this would be like a full circle thing. Then you watch the whole film and I've seen it 3 times and at no point is a white bat relevant to anything. The only thing that results from this is a bunch of really offensive stereotypes about people from Central America.
It probably because they're covered with motherfucking cocaine. Damn coked up bats probably flying around looking for a
And it's another thing where it's like, yeah, you think this is actually funny. The person that made this, you're putting so many scenes that are like this in it. So you really think that there's a reason for these. Okay, so that brother that left her in the alley because he got approached by the cops, somehow he got away. We never find out how. And he came to look for her. She's angry because he left the other brother with those gangsters after he got shot. She still believes he's alive and he's like, oh my god, you left my brother. I don't know why she believes he's alive when she saw him get shot, but okay. She says a lot of things in Spanish that of course they do not subtitle.
Usted no es nada más que un niño pendejo, con pistola o sin pistola.
She says to give you the gun.
That ain't not what she said.
But like, what did she say then? Like, her and Oscar escaped from Honduras after her mother died, and they traveled across the border and was able to find this brother. So they're like half brother and sister. He didn't even know they existed, but here they come at his doorstep. He was gonna just help them find a shelter that will allow them to settle. But before that could happen, Berta was kidnapped in the middle of the street by Travis Scott. They went to go get her, hence the beginning of the movie, or one of the beginnings of the movie, where they shot up the whole place to get her back.
How many did you kill? That's how many bodies you owe.
I am so not about that life. I know nothing about that life. That might be real. Is that real? I don't know. I have no clue. I like board games. Okay, so speaking of the Travis Scott looking dude, he's part of a gang that's led by an early 2000s rapper turned wholesome, innocuous household item that is Chris Ludacris Bridges. I would like to go on a side tangent about how much I respect Ludacris. He was able to transition from rapper to actor pretty seamlessly. And in the middle of that, it really had me going down a wonderful memory lane of classics, including but not limited to What's Your Fantasy? Get Back, My Chick Bad, How Low Can You Go? Move, Bitch, Get Out the Way, and many more that the whole family can enjoy. I say all that to say, this movie is definitely, it's a low note. Ludacris plays Hell, short for Helen, Henry, who is cousin to John Henry, and the leader of a sort of cyberpunk West Coast gang situation. He, too, of course, gets a ridiculously loud intro song. And if you look closely, you can see that he has this sort of infinity gauntlet on his chin, and that is due to an incident that'll happen later on. There's a largely pointless scene between John and Emilio that I was thinking about skipping entirely, except for that it brings up one very important question that I've been asking the entire movie, which is, why the hell is John helping them? He's asked directly, and he kind of like never answers it.
Why are you helping us?
Why wouldn't I?
Because they're strangers? Because just by having us here, you're putting yourself in danger? You have no reason to help us?
Is he a martyr? Does he miss caring for someone since his dog died? You equate taking care of a small puppy the same as taking care of Honduran children? That's offensive. He's supposed to just kind of innately have this sacrificing, selfless soul, which is just, it's just lazy story writing. Another ridiculously long and gratuitous music video in the middle of the movie. It really starts to feel like this movie was made strictly to have a soundtrack. They just did whatever with the movie, but was like, this soundtrack is gonna bang and you gonna listen to it. I got all 12 of my cousins on this here record and you gonna appreciate super loud music that leads into a flashback of Hell. That nigga named Helen. His name gonna be Helen for the rest of the video. And back in the day, Helen and John were both involved in illicit gang activities, one of which resulted in John killing a man. He was very guilty. He didn't want to be a part of the gang violence anymore. Basically, Helen goes on this trip where he's like, stop being a little bitch. We don't have time or space for human decency. You gotta be about that thug shit.
What am I supposed to be scared of?
The very apparent height and weight differences. My dude, he could eat you for sustenance.
You might not make it to your next birthday.
Is that a threat?
It's a prediction.
I can tell somebody was just writing that line and he was like, they ain't ready. I'm about to do it to him. Helen has these very high hopes of being the baddest bitch in the land. John kind of separates himself from that life. So yeah, they end up arguing about holding a gun, and that's the reason why Helen looks like Cyborg. Also, as a side note, why did he used to be dark skinned? I know, I mean, black people can tan, but damn. So for some reason, John realizes that his cousin is in some way responsible. Don't know how. So he goes on the search for his cousin and he ends up at his grandmother's house. She says she hasn't seen him in forever and he's like, all right, I'll wait. And I'm like, she says she ain't seen him in a real long time. And serendipitously, somebody comes in and gives a bag of money to say, deliver the bodies that are old. Hashtag gang shit. More jarring sexism.
Keep your hand steady, like you got a hand on a titty.
Also, she speak English now? When she learn English? In another completely unnecessary scene, the dad goes on about his penis for so long. Pretty much completely unprovoked.
Hardly fair.
Was it fair that I had a stroke at 52 and lost all practical use of my penis?
Can't wait until the weather warms up so I can go surfing. How about you surf on this giant? And the only reason why they add this to the movie is because he's about to end up in a situation where he gets shot and they want his final words to be something in relation to his legendary penis. By the way, the dad stands up. If you recall, he was in a wheelchair the entire movie.
How are you standing?
Adrenaline's a hell of a drug, son.
All right, there we go. We figured out the cure. So any paraplegic, just take a Red Bull and you set, my dude. So Young Ma walks in with light-skinned Luda and they threaten to burn in some way, maim Berta. Soon thereafter, though, John gets shot in the head by Young Ma and does not die. He's just like, whoa, I'm gonna have a headache in the morning. He's found by that one, the mammy black chick from the store. I don't know why she's there, why she just walked into his house like that. And after the Black Mama pep talk, he goes and get his hammer to save the day. Skirt, skirt, no he didn't. He went to the grandma's house for some reason and they talk and have tea as if this isn't like a very like time sensitive time. Then he goes back on the street where there's a bunch of, again, very loud and obnoxious music where he meets an annoying child. I hate children. I don't hate children, but most of them, when they start talking in between like 3 and 17, they just real annoying. And he meets a child.
Hey, hold up. I got some questions. Like, how'd you get so fucking big? What you doing over here with that big ass hammer? You're gonna get murked, my guy.
He introduces himself, and that's the end of that interaction, basically. Then we have another like 3 or 4 minute scene that's supposed to be funny, I guess, where these two dudes are just talking in a car about human centipedes, recidivism rates, and bussy. Only for at the end for the dude to get his head squashed like a watermelon on the way out. It was just such a waste of our time. Now Young Ma is in trouble because she shot John before she was supposed to, and they're about to shoot her. But before they can shoot her, John comes in and beats a hole into the wall, ricocheting a piece of 2x4 into the neck of one of the people that were gonna shoot Young Ma, and he dies. And then Ludacris is like, hey, go kill John. And she's like, nah, y'all was about to kill me. I'm not on y'all side anymore. Then all the lights go dark and she somehow materializes outside and she goes searching for someone. We don't know who. I guess John, but didn't she just say she wouldn't do it? But John finds her first and smashes in her knees. There is a final standoff between John and Helen, made indicative through the very loud Western music playing. A classic standoff on the lawns of the hood in the middle of broad daylight. We are now able to see that Helen not only is missing a significant part of his face, is also on an oxygen tank. So y'all telling me y'all being driven up the wall by a 5'8" man missing a jaw and on life support, essentially. One of Helen's dudes shoots John twice in the leg while an audience gathers behind them. They literally just saw someone get shot 5 feet ahead of them and they did not move. They got their kids. For some reason, they bring out the kids from Honduras. That Oscar one is still alive. That annoying black kid they brought out for 4 seconds runs to try to give John his hammer and then falls back and we think he got shot. I felt nothing. Let me defend myself. KennieJD is canceled. She said shoot annoying children. I said I wasn't invested in him as a character. He didn't get shot though. And then his mom drags him off, quote unquote, comedically.
You doing? Get your ass over here.
You brought your kid outside to watch someone get shot. This ain't Disney, bitch, this the streets. The gunshot was actually young Ma shooting one of Helen's henchmen. She does not shoot Helen, though. And I'm also confused on why she decided to be on John's side when he just sledgehammered her kneecaps. John then commences to do the final blow, which undoubtedly kills Helen, but results in him, much like in the folklore, passing out and presumably dying. You really put a Debo shot as if you didn't know Terry Crews was in this movie. Alas, it is the children saying thank you. And then we have a shot of John's hands clasping a random black woman's hands, presumably, I guess is that chick from the store, as the old Negro spiritual plays. Wow, it's what it is the whoa. This is easily the worst movie to come out this year. It came out in January and it's still holding strong. It's a remarkably awful patchwork of a movie. I am truly speechless, but I really, again, I can only do so much justice to the experience that it is. I would like y'all to experience once in your lifetime to just know how off-putting and awful it is. That's all for today, folks. If you like this video, be sure to like this video. Follow me on all my social media, Instagram and Twitter, both of which are KennieJD. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.